And welcome into Pressbox Live, a special afternoon edition of Pressbox Live, although it doesn't really matter to cite the time of day because you're out there watching it at all different times. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox at PressboxOnline.com, and he's KZ, Ken Zalis, one of our football experts, both fantasy and the real stuff. And Ken, we're going to talk about and break down some of last night's game in just a minute, but I got to tell you, folks out there in our viewing audience, a couple things. Win big with PressBox and our mobile sports betting partners. Get thousands of dollars in incentives and promo offers from Barstool, Caesars, FanDuel, and more at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. That's PressBoxOnline.com/offers. And also, we are sponsored by Maryland Vascular Specialists. Their team of surgeons is Maryland's leading in ethical arterial procedures. Go to mvsdoctors.com to learn more about their treatment. And I wonder if arterial procedure is what the Baltimore Ravens need, Ken, after what really was a heartbreaking 24-17 loss in Cincinnati last night. And let's get right to it. Your thoughts on the basic premise. We'll get into the decision to have Huntley try and put the ball over, but now whatever the reason, you're behind 24-17. You get the ball with a little over 3 minutes to go. And from all that sounded afterwards, the postmortems, John Harbaugh is describing it as like we wanted to time the touchdown so as not to leave Joe Burrow time. The same Joe Burrow who hadn't really moved the ball much at all in the second half against a Ravens defense that was playing pretty lights out football. Your thoughts, Ken, on that whole concept of timing when you score a tying touchdown?
Uh, it didn't work out, so it's an excuse. I mean, it's unfortunately it's par for the course. John Harbaugh has many good qualities. I know people who follow me probably will be surprised to hear me say that, but he actually does have some really, really good qualities. Time management, clock, game, situation has never been one of them, and that hasn't changed since he got here. Whether they're winning the Super Bowl or whether they're bowing out in the playoffs or not making the playoffs, that has never changed. And here's I'm more inclined to go with the whole timing. We didn't want to leave anything on the clock if two things were involved. One, if your defense had been struggling during the game, yeah, you don't want to put your defense on the field at the end of the game. We've seen that movie a lot of times in Baltimore,
Yep.
especially over the last 5-6 seasons, where the Ravens go ahead, within the last 2 minutes of a ball game, and the other team drives down the field almost at will and scores the winning field goal or touchdown or whatever. That wasn't the case in this game. Your defense was absolutely lights out. That in the second half they had allowed, I believe the final number was under 90 yards passing to Joe Burrow in the second half. So it doesn't matter when you score. You just have to score. And two, if Lamar Jackson, and we'll get into all that, I'm sure, had been the quarterback, you have a guy back there that has some experience. You're talking about a guy that's making his 10th start and his first, his first playoff start. I think you want to make sure you get it right versus timing everything. Score when you can score. Put points up when you can put points up, and let the mess work out the way it is. You had an inexperienced quarterback, and yes, the whole holding call kind of put everything back, and but once the holding call happens, let's get things right. Why are we huddling twice? Why are we going slow? Why are we still snapping the ball with 1 or 2 seconds left on the play clock? You have to get it right, and you have to help your quarterback through this situation. I go back to the Miami game, and you have an inexperienced quarterback in Skylar Thompson. What happened in that game? They had a lot of mismanagement of the clock. And part of that was because the head coach decided, I'm going to take over play calling opportunities in this game, and I'm going to kind of walk hand in hand with this quarterback. Now, it didn't work out, but they played a much better game than you thought. And the Ravens were doing that as well. They made more plays in the passing game than you thought they were going to be able to. Huntley finally got some runs there near the end, especially the one that got him down the goal line. But you got to score when you can score. It's not about timing at that point. Your defense was lights out. So no, I think that's just an excuse because things went wrong.
Can I just interject too? There's an old expression in baseball that you might play for the tie on the road, but you play for the win at home. This was a situation again to try and time the touchdown. It's not the winning touchdown; it's the tying touchdown.
Right.
If you don't score that touchdown, all is for naught, and and that's the way it ended up playing out.
And look, it was mismanaged. Well, however we want to say it, I'm just a believer in scoring when you can score, and I get there have been times, and maybe that all comes down to it where it hasn't worked out, and you left too much time left, and the other team came in and scored. Your defense was playing well, and if they had scored there, and Joe Burrow leads them with even if they had scored, they're probably, if they did it right, would have been 30, 40 seconds left. You kick the ball inbounds, maybe there's 25 seconds left. If Joe Burrow leads his team down at that point and they kick the 50-yard field goal, you clap, you give them the golf clap, you say congratulations, and you beat us. I don't buy it. I don't like it. And if it seems if it's true, if let's say it's just not coach speak, and it's really true, and that's what's going through their minds.
Yeah.
That's a flaw. That's a problem. That's just a problem of how the coaching staff thinks about a football game in that situation.
Yeah. What it says is, boy, we're not as concerned about our 30th ranked red zone offense as we are about our defense in the last minute of the football game that you've just watched 58 minutes of and saw the defense play, as you said, Ken, lights out. Let's go back to the time that we'll relive in infamy around Baltimore. We're tied 17-17, and we make that tremendous run down, where we've got the ball on the 1.5-yard line. Your thought about play one was the little pass to Ricard. Play two was the handoff to Edwards. Play three was the ill-conceived, over the top, and it was interesting how John Harbaugh, didn't take it on himself for a play call. It was all about the execution by an inexperienced quarterback of a play that you called, he didn't call.
Yeah. Look, their red zone offense is criminal. Yeah. I mean, it just is. And this goes back to earlier in the game where they don't even have the right personnel in the field. And then you try to run a trick play where you're rolling out to the right and you're throwing back into the middle of the field with Andrews. And you are who you are. And you have built this team for whatever reason, especially because of the injury to Bateman. You are who you are. You're a heavy run first team. And you have two running backs that work their butts off to get healthy in Dobbins and Gus. And there are no two players that I trust more in those situations to get me into the end zone. And the fact that Gus got one touch inside the 5 and Dobbins got 0 inside the 5. And
wasn't even on the field.
And not on the field, and you have Hill on the field. And look, I get it. So let me say this about play calling. Okay. The head coach really, outside of calling a timeout where he thinks it's just a crazy play call and it's not going to work and he doesn't like the situation, he's looking at the formation and he's not going to like what he sees, really doesn't overrule the OC.
Now, and that's the correct thing to do.
Okay. Now, no, I don't think John Harbaugh is very good at recognizing offensive or defensive formations on either side of the ball, but so that usually doesn't happen. But it's a philosophy. It's like this is not new. I mean, you just said it. What are they? They're the 30th ranked red zone
Red zone
offense in the
offense.
NFL. So this
Right.
has been a problem all year. So at some point in game planning during the season, you just have to say to your offensive coordinator, "Hey, when we're inside the 5, we need to just run the ball in. We need to play power football. We don't need to be cute." Now, the other side will say, well, the play to Ricard was wide open if he just throws the ball out there.
Right.
You have an inexperienced quarterback who struggles throwing the ball.
Who can't throw the ball very well.
He played.
He played a
And he
terrific game.
played tremendous. He played better than anybody expected. I think most Raven fans, if you went into this game, I didn't expect them to be in the ball game. They haven't scored points. They hadn't scored points under Huntley at all. They hadn't scored more than one touchdown in any of their games. So to think that all of a sudden in the playoffs they were going to be better is tough to do, but they were, and he played well, and he threw. Look, the double move was terrific. Some of the passes to Andrews were terrific. His best run as a Raven to get him down inside the 5 was a great play. But once you're there, you have two hammerheads. Run the ball 4 times. I mean, you were going for the touchdown. Run the ball 4 times. Now, we can always blame execution. And this coaching staff loves to blame the players because it's always execution. The fact of the matter is you had an inexperienced quarterback that you put in a situation, and he's trying to play hero ball. And he shares a little bit of the blame, but he should never have been in that situation. If you run the ball on first down and second down, and you're at the 1 yard line, first of all, the quarterback sneak was from way too far out. Those types of plays are from the 1 yard line or in when you see them work. And they also happen to be with quarterbacks that are more experienced than he is.
And I go one step further. Way too out to even try the sneak, but way too far out to try the put the ball out
again, there. I agree with the whole coaching staff and John Harbaugh that he wasn't supposed to do that. I think that's true. Yeah. But he tried to, as he said, I tried to make a play. And that's what players do. But if you don't put inexperienced guys in those situations when all you have to do, I would have either rather, how many times have we seen, I would have loved to see at that point, if that was the play where they were supposed to push him there, I would have loved to see some motion and Mark Andrews come under center like they've done many times this year and have Ricard behind him and push him into the end zone because he knows what to do with it. You have an inexperienced quarterback. You have 2 hammerhead running backs. I'm sorry. It's bad play calling. It's bad philosophy, and it's not new. And it's a really, really consistent problem under Harbaugh and under Greg Roman. And I tweeted this, Stan. I joked about it during the game. I said, watch, after the game, win or lose, because at that point it was I said, he's going to say it was execution. That wasn't what they were supposed to do. He's going to throw it on Huntley and throw his player under the bus because he'll never throw his coaches under the bus. And it's just one of those things.
We got somebody that's posted something on your Yardstream video. You can do that. Raven, it's Sammy VH11 says the Ravens have major offensive problems with or without Lamar. It's not just Lamar's injury. It's a coaching and X and O clock management problem. The one constant is Harbaugh. It's time for a change. You and I have a feeling, are on the same side of this and would agree with Sammy, but we know that Greg Roman's most likely going to be the one to walk the plank, and Steve Bisciotti will stick behind his friend and confidant, Mr. Harbaugh, don't you think?
You're probably right. And here's the problem. And look, John Harbaugh is, by all accounts, even though on national TV didn't show his best side to Melissa Stark yesterday. First of all, he's got
He
to be
tried to
better in
play a
that.
little. He tried to play a little bully ball with Melissa
He's
Starr.
first of all, he's got to be better in that moment.
Yeah,
Secondly, those interviews are stupid and should go away. No
I
head coach wants to be doing that, but you know it's coming.
yeah.
So just grin and bear it and be respectful. She's trying to do her job. She's from Baltimore, for God's sake. I mean, come on. I mean, if you're going,
Now, who, by
it,
the way,
it,
who put out there? Did the Ravens put it out there that they were going to play both quarterbacks before the game?
yeah, I mean, but that's just
Okay.
they put it out there because I mean, if
It
we
will
don't tell
really
them who's
throw
good, if
Zach
we don't
Taylor
tell them
off.
who's going to start, how will they
Right,
know who to
right,
prepare
right,
for?
right.
Just like they had to do the whole facade for 6 weeks. We don't know when Lamar's coming back, so you can prepare for him, and we'll tell you on Sunday morning whether he's in or out. It's it's a philosophy thing that the Ravens think they're smarter than everybody else in the room, but that goes on
in a lot of
in
rooms.
a lot of places. But John Harbaugh is by all accounts a really good family man. I've seen him at basketball games, at lacrosse games. He's really a nice guy, and he is. And God bless him for bringing a Super Bowl victory to Baltimore. But it was 10 years ago, folks. We're talking a decade of football, and he's built a culture where Ravens fans expect to make the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
And now, once your expectation is you're making the playoffs, we'd like to see some wins in the playoffs. They've had 2 wins in a decade in the playoffs. I'm sorry, that's not good enough for an organization that is built
being
on
one of the best in
as
football.
one of the best. And I go back to Steve Bisciotti said something a long time ago, and maybe it's true, and maybe it's good enough. He said he wanted to build a team that would make the playoffs every year, and his intention to make the playoffs every year. Well, he's done that, and maybe that's good enough for him. For me as a fan, and I am a fan, and I know I'm critical, and I know I've been critical of John Harbaugh. Look, I don't think John Harbaugh would have been the coach for this long if Joe Flacco doesn't get hurt 5 years ago. I think he was on his way out after that season because they were going to miss the playoffs for the 4th time out of 5 years. And Lamar comes in and changes everything. And you bring in a Greg Roman because he runs a certain type of offense. But then another comment along the way was, we want to build an indefensible offense. Well, you never did that. You just never did it. I mean, this is all worked, and everybody has their opinion about Lamar and whatever, the injury, whatever. I'm not going to get into that because I'm going to be honest, Stan. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how hurt he is. I've never heard from a team doctor from the Ravens. All I've heard from is John Harbaugh, and then you heard from Lamar. You haven't heard from anybody else. But
have you seen Lamar's tweet today?
I do. I'm not reading into it. I don't know what it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means on Instagram. Everybody's saying, "Oh, he's saying he's gone." What? I mean, let's put it this way: Lamar Jackson will not be a Raven if the Ravens don't want him anymore, because the Ravens control him. He may not play football for them ever again, but for the next 2 years, they can franchise him, and he can't go anywhere. Now, the Ravens are in a tough spot because it's going to cost them a lot of money. And here's both sides of the coin being fair. I'm a Lamar backer. The fact of the matter is, Lamar has not played football at the last 6 weeks of the last 2 seasons. And it's not because he's a running quarterback, because he got hurt in the pocket. I don't know if he's good at following up in rehab. What I'm not anymore is an insider, Stan. I don't have the access that some of these guys that report on it and on a daily basis seem to have. I don't even think they know. I don't get the sense that anybody really knows. And until somebody comes out, and part of the problem is that Lamar doesn't have any representation besides himself, so it's his word against the Ravens and so on and so forth. But this team was built to work with one person, and that's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And if Lamar Jackson is not going to be your quarterback next year, are you in a rebuild offensively? Because you need you need a whole new philosophy. You need to change the personnel as far as getting some wide receivers in here. Yeah. And I don't know how much cap space you're going to have to do all that. Hopefully Bateman comes back, and we really liked what we saw with him. But He's been a little bit injury prone.
And Duvernay was.
And Duvernay will be back, but they never really used him properly. Wallace and Prochet, I mean, whatever everybody thinks of them, they've never been developed, and they've never been. It's hard to be developed when you get 10 targets a season. I don't know, but they just need to change their offensive philosophy. And what I'd love to see is them get out of their comfort zone and find a modern offensive coordinator that can just create space. There's never space for the Ravens. All the receivers are always in the same area. We don't see, even though they utilize Lamar like only Greg Roman really could, they really don't get him in space a whole lot. And so I don't know what you're doing. I don't know as an organization where you go if Lamar Jackson is your quarterback. Is it a total rebuild on the offensive side? Your offensive line is not the most athletic, but they are bullies and things like that. So, I'm just not sure what the step forward is if you decide to move on from Lamar Jackson. And I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't. I mean, if you could get a king's ransom for him and rebuild it, almost overnight because of draft picks and things like that.
Let me ask you something about that, because value of players, both in fantasy football and in real football. Does he have the fact that he's missed the last 5 or 6 games 2 years straight? Does that decrease his value to another team, or do the Seattle Seahawks or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, moving on from Tom Brady, say, we're not worried about that. We love what he provides for us for the next 2 or 3 years?
I don't think it's a hindrance, because it's not something that like they're legitimate injuries. I mean, it's not like, he misses 2 games every 3 weeks or stuff like that. I mean, these have been, by all accounts, season-ending injuries that have happened in the pocket because, the offensive line couldn't block somebody. I don't think that. I think the NFL looks at Lamar like a unicorn, and he's one of one.
Right.
And any team would love to have him, and just use him in a different way. I just, people will continue. People have their narratives about what he can and can't do. I think he's good enough as a passer. Is he a great passer? No. Is he the most accurate passer? No. But he hits open guys. I mean, you think about some of the throws that he makes sometimes, and you're like, there's not 5 other quarterbacks in the league that make those throws.
Right.
The one to Deshaun, the one catch that I remember Deshaun Jackson having this year, the across the field, deep out that he hit him in stride, that if he could have kept on his feet, it's a touchdown. Like, there's not many quarterbacks that can make that throw where the ball's 50 yards in the field and it's on, hits the guy in the hands in stride. I think he can throw, and he brings that unique ability to have, when plays break down, still make something out of it. And I think ultimately that's what's missing from the Ravens philosophy. They want to bring everybody closer to the line of scrimmage, and I want them to every once in a while spread things out and just trust Lamar one-on-one with somebody.
So let me just ask your opinion of something. How they crack this walnut open? How do they use the nutcracker to get a deal done with them? Because what I'm most afraid of is the Ravens, based on the way Lamar handled this year. And again, I'm not questioning whether he was hurt or wasn't hurt or how severe it was. But Michael Vick said, hey, brace it up and go out there and play. And that's easy for Michael to say now because he's not playing. But how do they get a deal done that isn't just simply the Ravens cornering him with a franchise tag? Is there a deal to be made?
Sure, there's a deal to be made. First of all, Michael Vick, look, great player. What's Michael Vick done in the NFL? I mean, he ran around a whole lot, and then RG3 came right behind him and showed a picture of him wearing a brace and ruining his career because they threw him out there with a brace and they almost forced him to play.
Right.
You know your body. Here's the one thing, and I'm going to answer your question in a minute. I would love the Ravens at some point, and this is my problem with the Ravens because they've made this a public opinion thing on Lamar.
Yep.
Where are the Ravens doctors saying he's not approved to play? He's not cleared to play. This would be it. You don't have to tell me what the injury is. John Harbaugh could have come up there instead of all this. Well, we're not going to discuss that. Blah, 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 blah.
The doctors say this is
our doctors have not cleared Lamar Jackson to play football.
It takes all the onus off the player.
It takes everything off everybody and stops all this he said, she said, and they have done. Their PR with Lamar over the last 2 weeks has just been awful. It
wouldn't have been that way if Kevin Byrne was there.
Well, you know what? you make a great point, and that's very, very true. That is very, very true. But getting back to your question, you can make a deal. Look, everybody's talking about the Roquan Smith deal, and they overpaid, and that's a 2-year deal, folks. I mean, that's a 2-year deal, and in year 3, they will either renegotiate it, they'll figure it out, but it's a really cap-friendly 2-year deal. They can do the same thing with Lamar. They can sign him to a 6-year deal. The first 2 years are very cap-friendly and give all kinds of money. Then they can kind of massage it every year. These types of deals get better because the salary cap goes up and up. And if the salary cap continues to go up and up by 10, 15 million a year, by year 5, when you've added 50 million to the salary cap, what are we talking? We're not talking about a big hit against the salary cap anymore. So, yeah, there's a deal to be done. And yes, does it make it harder because he's negotiating his own deal? Sure, it does. But everything that Lamar's ever said is that he likes playing in Baltimore and he loves his teammates and he wants to bring a Super Bowl. And I believe him when he says that. So there's a deal to be made. What they've done doesn't hinder them. What they're going to do with Lamar, whether it's $200 million guaranteed or whatever, is not going to hinder them from saying, I can't sign everybody else. The good news is they don't have a lot of people to re-sign right now. And they have some cuts they can make and to give them some more room. I think they can get a deal done that's cap friendly, especially in the next 2 years.
All right. KZ, appreciate it. Appreciate all that you do for Press Box, my friend. It's going to be an interesting off season, to say the least.
100%.
We thank you for coming on. Want to remind folks that you can win big with PressBox and our mobile sports betting partners. Get thousands of dollars in incentives and promo offers from Barstool, Caesars, FanDuel, and more at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. That's PressBoxOnline.com/offers. And the folks at Maryland Vascular Specialists have brought you this PressBox Live. Their team of surgeons is Maryland's leaders in ethical arterial procedures. Go to mvsdoctors.com to learn more about their teammates. I'll be picking up another ball at 6 o'clock tonight with Luke Jackson in for Ross Grimsley as we talk about the Orioles off season as we get ready for spring training. Again, my thanks to Ken Zalis. I'm Stan the Fan, and we are over and out. Bye.